Hi, I'm Dana Brown, the Dean of the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. I'm delighted to be here today to launch a new initiative called Shifting Landscapes, which is a forum for thought leadership about our future as we conquer the global pandemic that is shaping our world today. For this initiative, we're bringing together voices from different industries, from different generations and different backgrounds to consider not how we go back to normal, but how we take everything we've learned and achieved at this historic time and rebuild businesses and communities that are stronger and more sustainable than ever. We've invited contributors to this forum to prepare 3 to 5 minute video clips from wherever they are using whatever technology they have at hand. Their remit is to think big about the future and what we can do with what we've already learned about ourselves and about our capabilities. So speakers were asked to address 3 questions. One is, what do you expect the future to be like after this pandemic? 2, what COVID traditions have you adopted or seen adopted in your organizations that you'd like to bring forward with you into that future? And 3, what do you think is unlikely to happen? And of those unlikely things, what could go really well? So today we'll be showing the first 3 of the videos that we've received, but there are many more that are ready and are in the making. And we invite all of you to join the conversation by submitting a video, a commentary, or participating in one of the forthcoming roundtable discussions about the issues that are raised in the video forums. So our first 3 thought leadership videos for Shifting Landscapes were contributed by leaders working in very different areas. We are delighted to welcome Eugene Lundrigan, who's the president of Sun Life Capital Management in Toronto, Canada, Justin Sweeney, social finance manager for the St. John Community Loan Fund in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, and Steve Spooner, retired technology executive and a member of our advisory board at the Sprott School of Business, who's residing in Ottawa, Canada. So please join me in hearing these leaders' perspectives, and please add your comments and your questions to the forum as we go along. Thank you very much.
My name is Eugene Lundrigan. I'm the president of Sun Life Capital Management Canada, and it's my pleasure to be part of the Sprott Shifting Landscapes initiative. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes on the impacts that I see from the COVID-19 pandemic. But before I do that, I would like to say that I hope everybody is staying home, staying safe, and I certainly look forward to a day when we can all hopefully be going about our daily lives in a more normal way than we are today. So I have 4 key changes that I see in the future as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The first one is, I believe the world's going to get a lot bigger. And by that, I mean, I think we're going to see the redrawing of supply lines in areas like healthcare, healthcare-related supplies, things like food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals, all the kinds of things that people would want to have closer to home. And I think that the pandemic has indicated that there are concerns with global supply chains in some of those areas. I think travel is going to get more difficult. I think borders, areas that have had very limited borders or easy travel across borders, I think that's going to be a challenge, certainly in the short run and probably more in the long run as well. And that's certainly going to impact areas like travel and cooperation between countries. The second area where I see change in the future is really how people think about companies and how companies get evaluated. And I believe that those valuations and evaluations will ultimately have impacts on companies' P&Ls. So, for example, some of the key areas that I think companies are there's an increased focus on companies related to include business continuity. So how did businesses do in terms of their business continuity plans during this time? Were boards and senior management ready as it pertained to the pandemic? Did they have proper succession planning in place? So I think that's going to be a key area going focus, an area that's probably been more of a focus than it has been in the past. Second area is, I think more and more companies will be scrutinized in terms of how they treat employees. That could be employees being more concerned about, do I have health and welfare plans at work? How was I treated during this pandemic? Does my company invest in my mental health? Did they keep employees on when there's a fall in revenue, when when they were under a little bit of financial stress, but we're able to potentially do that. Do I feel adequately protected in the workplace? Do I feel comfortable that I can come back to work safely? Do I feel like there's enough flexibility in my workplace as well? So I think employees will be thinking more about companies, not just on a dollars and cents from a salary perspective, but how do they feel in terms of their broader relationship with the company? I think a third area related to that would be there's going to be greater expectations on companies who take any kind of government support or money during this process to ensure that they've been acting responsibly with it, both in terms of their business activities, but also with regards to employees as well. Third key area that I think there'll be change in the future is we're gonna have a lot more government. I think it's really been amazing to watch how governments have acted quickly and in a coordinated way to the maximum effect, I believe, in order to try to limit the impacts of the pandemic. Probably equally as interesting has been the broad acceptance of the need for this massive government intervention. Really, regardless of political stripe, people all around the world have been very supportive of additional government activity. Talk about equity stakes in companies, talk about new areas of regulation, financial support from central banks, personal data tracking happening in a growing set of countries, most recently Australia being mentioned. I think all these things have very broad implications. The other thing that I think from a government perspective that to me is concerning is I think there's going to be more and more focus country by country by governments, and less focus on multinational organizations and cooperation. I think that's something that I believe we should be very concerned about, particularly in areas like a pandemic, where it's clear that global cooperation is something which is really critical to help minimize its impacts. Fourth area is I believe we're going to really be revisiting how we work. Through my whole work career, there's been a focus on less space per employee, more collaboration amongst employees, agile workplaces. And I think clearly the pandemic, or the immediate response to the pandemic, is putting a lot of those things in question. I think we'll also see more and more technology used for people to keep in touch, be it Zoom or just even the potential for Zoom-like technology to be used within an office so that too many people don't have to congregate close by. I think we're also going to see just a broader push to a virtual world. We've already seen it through this period where healthcare and telemedicine have really picked up. We've seen tremendous pickup in online shopping. I think you're going to see more automation in jobs. I think we'll also see more people working from home in the future. Maybe not in a 2 or 3 month span like we've had right now, but I think it's clear that for many of us in many industries, the ability to work from home periodically is something that has been happening very effectively over this period. In terms of traditions to keep, the one that's really been striking to me is just how people have come together in their local communities to support each other. I've lived in a neighborhood here in Toronto for quite some time. I've never seen people so friendly. I had a case yesterday. One of the things that I've been doing to try to keep active over this period has been going out for bike rides. And I had a case yesterday where I stopped at a stoplight and some other people were crossing in front of me, and they stopped and said, "Hi, and how are you doing? And hope you have a great bike ride." And I can honestly tell you, I've never had anybody who was walking past speak to me on my bike before. So I think we really see people being tremendously supportive of each other, and I really hope that's something that we can keep. It's really something that it's made me feel really, really good. Finally, something that I think is maybe unlikely to bring forward, but could really be a benefit is, if you think about what's happening today, it's really a very low probability scenario that's played out, and we've got to see the impacts from that low probability scenario. If you think about it, I think that's something that feels very, very similar to climate change in terms of a common good that we're all focused on, be it climate in that case, global health in our case, low probability event, and the world hopefully coming together to find solutions to those circumstances. I think climate change is interesting topic right now because we have seen a substantial decline in pollution as people have been working more from home. But we also probably have to realize in a weaker economy coming out of the pandemic, it's quite possible that climate change and impacts of climate change might take a backseat to some of our more near-term economic circumstances. So hopefully we can take some of our lessons learned here on a global problem, low probability event to see how we might be able to think about other things like climate change in that world. So those are the key things that I see coming out of COVID-19 and its impact on us in society. I look forward to hearing from other thought leaders in the space, and thanks again to the Sprott School for this initiative. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, my name's Justin Sweeney. I am the Social Finance Manager for the St. John Community Loan Fund. I'm going to talk to you a little bit or share some of my thoughts and ideas as it relates to community lending and COVID-19 and what we're seeing a little bit currently, but more optimistically what I think we're going to see as we reemerge after COVID-19, which I think could be really exciting and really could help to transition some of our local economies, especially in a rural context, I think, which is an area that I understand best, living and residing in New Brunswick, practicing in New Brunswick. I understand rural context, so certainly if you're looking at an urban setting, maybe take what I say with a grain of salt. Community lending in general is basically an aggregation of capital from a number of different sources. These might be accredited investors, it might be a foundational endowment, it might be municipalities or different levels of government. But basically, in general, we're aggregating capital in an exempt market format, and then we're stewards of that capital, and we see it lent out within the community. And so we do a little bit of what's called character-based lending. So this is normally for individuals who are facing credit concerns and really can't access traditional capital in order to start a small venture or even take an employment opportunity. So we're ensuring that these individuals have opportunities to rebuild their credit and to access capital ongoing. One of the things that we've really noticed because of COVID-19 is really just the technological dichotomy of different demographics. And so a number of the people that we would work with through a microfinance portfolio, they're challenged to access us when they're limited to digital channels. So a number of individuals still faced literacy concerns, let alone digital literacy. So especially as we're now moving into this kind of remote delivery model, one of the challenges that we've faced is really trying to figure out how best to continue to serve these populations when really we cannot physically be in contact. Of course, telephone has been fantastic, but even sharing and executing documents, updating loan schedules, a lot of that has been a challenge. I hope and am optimistic for a more technological adoption, but again, it's access, it's equitable access to that level of technology and to internet connectivity. So certainly that's something I think that's become very relevant when it comes to our microfinance work. As we start to look towards larger scale operations and larger scale investment, we're anticipating a few things moving forward, and this is where things start to get optimistic. In a rural context, at least, I can speak for maritime experience. What we're seeing is an immense outpouring of individuals who want to become local investors. These are people who are recognizing that there is a lack of channels to allow a local person to invest in their local economy outside of just being a consumer. We've been really kind of hammering home the shop local movement for a long period of time, 15, 20 years that I can recall. And so, as we continue to push shop local, I think what we're going to see coming out of COVID-19 that's really exciting for me is moving from shop local to invest local, which may include, stewarding a small percentage of our ESPs into localized impact GICs, or basically getting involved in a localized affordable housing real estate fund, or it might even be involved being involved in a cooperative investment fund that's going to invest in clean tech within your rural setting or within a certain certain place. So I think these types of place-based funds were certainly relevant prior to COVID-19. However, I think their uptake, at least what we are seeing right now, the uptake is far, far greater than what it had been. So optimistically coming out of COVID-19, I think that we're going to. I think we're going to see more individuals and more opportunities for people to double down on localized investment. Whether that's through, like I said, the number of different channels that are being developed. But when it comes to community lending, I hope that we see that happening because certainly market vulnerabilities right now has kind of constricted some of our foundational endowments and other sources of capital. Whether it's a high net worth individual or some of the accredited investors that we might work with, certainly. Injecting capital or accessing capital can be a little bit challenging right now. So I do hope that that we see more of this localized investment moving forward, and that it really helps to champion community lending as a more regular process and something that we're seeing in all of our communities across Canada. I hope that this was mildly insightful for you guys, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Hello, my name is Steve Spooner. I am a recently retired executive from the technology and telecom industry for some 35 years. I sit on the Dean's Advisory Board here at Sprott. I am a proud graduate of the Sprott Business School and currently serve on the board of several Canadian corporations. It's my pleasure to share a few thoughts with you today on the look ahead, if you will, as I see it post-COVID-19 crisis. My initial thinking had been to first speak about the impacts on individuals, then move to the business community, and finish up with some thoughts about what COVID-19 could mean going forward to the global economy. But I very soon realized that I'm not smart enough to cover all that in a 3 to 5 minute video. So I thought what I'd do instead is take a cue from David Letterman, and I've put together, at kind of first blush, my top 10 opportunity list. For us to explore and hopefully embrace as we look forward to coming out of this crisis, as we inevitably will. So here goes. Number 10, there's an incredible opportunity for us to invest in Canadian manufacturing. We've certainly seen the implications of not having appropriate manufacturing capability in Canada for things like ventilators, test kits, PPE, and the like. And in future, we're also going to see the lack of vaccine production capabilities in Canada also can potentially pose a challenge for us. So I think not only for those items, but I think broadly, many Canadian businesses are going to move away potentially from the global supply chain and look for the lowest cost production in low cost jurisdictions around the world in favor of some of the merits, if you will, of manufacturing locally and having greater security of supply chain. Number 9, there's another great opportunity as we go forward in the business community and in our work lives to improve our work-life balance. I read with interest this morning that a major Canadian tech company just announced that it was closing half of its offices, because what they found was that with this experiment of having the majority of its employees working at home, that in fact did not impact productivity. So I think employees will have an opportunity to benefit from some of these work at home arrangements, and companies will benefit from lower fixed costs in their business and happier employees. Number 8, let's embrace e-commerce. It's really been foisted upon us in this COVID crisis, but I think many people who didn't use it before are finding that it just works, and it's easy and reliable and quick and cost effective. So great opportunities for industries to embrace that going forward, and for consumers to embrace it as an alternative to how we would do our shopping in the past. Number 7, with many of us being reluctant to get on a plane or a cruise ship anytime soon, there's a tremendous opportunity to look at ways to vacation in our home city, our home province, our home country, and in so doing, help the local economies recover and strengthen our hospitality industry sector. Number 6, let's embrace technology, whether it's collaboration like video conferencing, distance learning, the ability to work at home, leveraging networking technologies and the like. There's a real opportunity here to change the way we operate and frankly strengthen our business models going forward. Number 5, many businesses are having to reinvent themselves now. So businesses are looking at how they can develop lower cost, less facility based, more diversified business models to improve their resiliency to weather the storm of crises like COVID-19. So I'm confident the business community will ultimately emerge stronger as a result. Number 4, we have seen governments and many businesses making decisions at a pace that we've never seen before. So if it's possible during a crisis, let's challenge ourselves to make it the new norm. So is there an opportunity here to reduce bureaucracy, to speed up business processes and operations with that more rapid decision making, and make that the new norm of how we conduct business and government going forward. Number 3, a tremendous opportunity exists to share innovation and research. We're seeing that now amidst the COVID crisis, with many medical researchers and scientists, working across borders, despite the protectionist supply chain type tactics that we've seen some countries employ. We are seeing encouraging research sharing, and that really has to be the way forward, particularly for global health concerns like COVID-19. Number 2, there is another opportunity for us to learn as to how we can improve our preparedness for a pandemic. Many of us would argue that we should have learned more from the last pandemic and didn't. But let's not let this opportunity go by. Let's hold our leaders to a higher standard to ensure we're better prepared for the next pandemic that will inevitably come our way. And finally, we have an opportunity and, quite frankly, an obligation to address the quality of care that our seniors receive. It has been, a national shame for us to see the tragic impact of COVID-19 on the lives of seniors living particularly in long-term care facilities, and the devastating impact to families. So, let's ensure that we as a society focus on ensuring that our seniors have the quality of care that we would expect them to have, and that frankly we will want for ourselves when we are seniors. So that's my top 10 list. Let's seize these opportunities and the many other opportunities that will emerge. I look forward to soon reflecting on how we have beaten this COVID-19 crisis, as we will, and how we've come out of it stronger, wiser, and more caring as individuals, as businesses, and as a global society. So thank you, and stay safe.
Wow, there were some great ideas that came out of those first few videos. So, let me just start by thanking the first contributors to Shifting Landscapes, Eugene Lundrigan, Justin Sweeney, and Steve Spooner. You've provided us with a wealth of ideas to take forward as we think about how to recover and rebuild after this pandemic. So thank you very much. There were way more ideas than I can summarize here today. So I'm just going to start by taking a few reflections from what I've heard in those videos. So first of all, I think all 3 of the thought leaders that spoke today pointed to new thinking about our global and our local connectedness. So globalization, as we've known it, has been really defined by complex global supply chains, connected by an enormous web of movement of people and goods, and really driven by a desire to increase economies of scale and profitability. I think these core elements of globalizations have truly been challenged, not only by the pandemic, but also even before the pandemic, by other factors that have been straining the social fabric in communities around the world. Vast inequality between people, climate change and the impact of climate change, and just generally feelings of disconnectedness from one another. Yet I think global connectedness, if thought of in a really different way from this typical definition of globalization, can bring enormous opportunity for the exchange of knowledge and culture, for collective endeavors to conquer the health, the social, and the environmental issues that are facing our world. What we have in front of us is really an opportunity to recalibrate globalization, perhaps to localize more production, more investment, and consumption, yet to globalize more of our ideas, our expertise, and importantly, our shared humanity. The possibilities are exciting at every level for investors and for business people who can create new enterprise to serve the local needs and to serve what are perhaps going to be much more conscientious and aware consumers of the future. And also those business people and organizations who can identify ways of really harnessing the global talent and the energy to tackle the big problems that face the world today. A second theme we heard a lot about today was about our future workplace and our ways of working. I think the experience of the pandemic has definitely shown us the value of working for companies and leaders who are adaptable, responsive, caring, and generous towards their employees. I think employers of the future are really going to have to rise to the demand for workplaces that embed a more positive approach to people, and for employers and for leaders who treat their employees not as resources, but as partners in making businesses as strong as they can be. And we'll learn new ways of working together, doing teamwork, perhaps with less time in our offices, as many of our speakers talked about, more efficiently employing technologies, which we're now doing every day, to collaborate and to innovate together. I think the likely impact on the workplace, though, will have an effect outside of the workplace in all areas of our cities and communities as well. It may make us rethink public spaces and where and how we come together to work, to innovate, to collaborate. I think the possibilities here are also exciting. There are possibilities for businesses and organizations to redeploy the resources that they use for workplaces to create greater innovations. And then there are other possibilities for all of us to come together, to redesign spaces and forums where we can come together in new ways. A final theme that's arisen in the talks today, and that has arisen in a lot of the commentary that's coming out of the pandemic, really, is the use of technology. And I'll quote one of my brilliant Sprott students who, in the first week after the lockdown, answered a question that I posed to the students about what they thought would be different after the pandemic. And this student said, "What will be different is that my grandmother is ordering everything online." And indeed, the increased use of technologies in our day-to-day life is bound to have a transformative impact on many businesses and organizations, which we're already seeing. I mean, the obvious impact is the rise of e-commerce, but there are so many other possibilities as well. Technological innovation, for example, could be a part of the solutions to another opportunity that we've heard about in some of the talks today. And that's an opportunity to create more positive living environments for the elderly. Technologies that improve health, that increase accessibility, that provide more opportunities for independence and connectedness of older people to one another and to their communities, could really revolutionize the way we all live together and the way we support each other. These are incredible times in which we live. Our goal in this forum was to just start a conversation that we hope to take further with planning and with action to build a better future from what we've learned about ourselves and everything that we've been able to do during this historic moment together. I invite you to join the conversation. Every idea, every comment, every action matters. We're at the beginning of an exciting journey together. So please join us by commenting on social media, asking questions, contributing a video, or participating in one of our forthcoming roundtable discussions. Everything will be announced here on our website and on our social media platforms. So thank you for listening today. Please join us every Tuesday when we will be launching more of these thought leadership videos and having a similar discussion to that which we had today. And most of all, be well, stay safe and take care.